February 10, 2014, the Chabad Jewish Center of St. Petersburg had the unique and historic opportunity to enter the world of the stepsister and childhood friend of Anne Frank, Mrs. Eva Schloss. Over 500 residents of Tampa Bay were on hand at the Palladium Theatre to listen to the riveting story that Mrs. Schloss shared from the time spent in Austria as a young child, leading up to being sent to the death camp Auschwitz.
Eva Schloss is the stepsister of Anne Frank, of righteous memory. In addition to being the subject of James Steele's play, And Then They Came for Me, Remembering the World of Anne Frank, and publishing 2 books of her own, Eva has devoted these past decades of her life to making sure that not only the world never forget, but that it also takes to heart the true and proper lessons of the Holocaust. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mrs. Eva Schloss.
Thank you.
I'd like to take note of something special in our community. Our community boasts one of the largest Holocaust museums in the country, committed to creating a society of tolerance, respect, through their initiatives. It is a credit to this community and the greater Tampa Bay community, and it's worthy of mention.
All the children met there after school to play, and one day a little girl came to me and introduced herself and said her name was Anne Frank. Her family comes from Germany, and she took me to her apartment, which was opposite ours, and I met her father, mother, and sister. And we became friends for 2 years.
How old were you and how old was she at the time?
We were 11 years old at the
11.
time, both 11. She's just 1 month, she was 1 month younger than me. I was born in May and she in June.
You said she was more serious, though, than for her age, correct?
Yes. Well, I wouldn't even say serious, but she was quite mature in a way. And I was really very, very childish. And I used to play.
Well, you were 11, I mean.
Well, so was she. Yeah, but she, I mean, I loved to play marbles. I had a bag of marbles, and that was very popular at the time. And everybody who had another bag, I challenged them to play marbles. Anna didn't do that. That was too boyish and too childish for her. But we skipped together, and she always wanted to have a lot of people around her. She was a bit of a show-off. And she wanted to tell stories. At school, she was called Mrs. Quack Quack because she never stopped talking. Very often, she had to stay behind to write lines. I'm not going to talk so much in class, but it didn't really help. We were an Austrian family. My great-grandparents were already in Austria, and we were, of course, Jewish. I was very happy. We had a big family, extended family, many cousins, and I was a real tomboy. My father, too, was very adventurous, and he was one of the first people who had a car, and he took us up the mountain roads. You know, my mother sat in the back screaming at every bend. But I loved it. Go on, Dad, go on, more bends and so on. But all this collapsed as soon as the Nazis came in. My best friend was actually a little Catholic girl. On the way home, I usually went to pop into her and play with her. As soon as the Nazis came, I carried on going to her home. When the mother saw me, she said, "You're not welcome here anymore," and she slammed the door in my face. I was 9 years old. I went home, I cried. I said to my mother, "I don't understand. We didn't have a quarrel. Why is this?" And my mother said, "Well, this is how life for Jewish people will be from now on."
There is no greater way to honor the strength, courage, and resilience of Mrs. Schloss and the many survivors of the Holocaust than to recount the atrocities that they had to live through in order to survive these terrible events.
We were put immediately on the list.
And were sent to Auschwitz.
Well, we didn't know where we were going. You know, they didn't tell you where we were going. But that was the last time that we were together in this cattle truck as a family. And there were 2 things which happened there which were very, very close to my heart. One thing, my father, who was a wonderful family man, cried and apologized that from now on he can't protect us anymore. He said, I helped you get out of Austria, found your hiding place, kept you safe for 2 years, but now you'll be on your own. And that was for him, a terrible thing to admit and to say. Otto came to us. He went to visit everybody who had been in Auschwitz and everybody who had known Anne. So he came to our house, and he had a little brown parcel in his arm, and he opened it very, very carefully, and he said, I must show you something. And it was, of course, Anne's diary. And he read a few sentences, but he always burst into tears. It took him 3 weeks to read the book. It was too emotional him. And he was amazed. He said, very often, I didn't know my own child. Because, she writes, of course, about the daily thing, what is happening, which was quite, with 8 people in a small space under bad circumstances, people go on each other's nerves, it's very difficult, but as well her thoughts, and this is really what Otto valued so much. Her opinion about things where he had no idea that she was already that wise. But, Otto became my stepfather, the grandfather of our children.
So your mother and father and Otto helped publish the diary.
He came very often to us to discuss things. He had nobody really, and my mother had nobody. Well, me, but it was me. She couldn't talk about those things. And so they became very involved with each other.
And then they worked to publish the diary, though.
Yes. It was difficult because the diary is very private, and Anne says sometimes she wants to publish, sometimes she doesn't want to. And so it was a difficult decision. And as well, she was quite critical, especially about her mother. And she had died, and as well the other people who all had died. So Otto was not really very happy to publish that like this. So he edited a bit, which later was a bit of a problem because the Nazis said Otto wrote it and it didn't even exist. Otto had many, many court cases in Germany about the real value and the authenticity of the diary. Many, many German teachers stood at schools giving out leaflets, the diary is a fake, and it was an invention of her father. He just wanted to make money and terrible things. But it was always examined, the paper she wrote on it, the ink she used, ball pens didn't exist at the time, and of course it was authentic.
The Chabad Jewish Center of St. Petersburg thanks all of the participants that came out to support this historic event, and especially to Mrs. Schloss for having the power to share such intimate and touching moments from her life.
I want to thank you for your courage in telling your story here today. Your story is important because if we don't talk about and teach the atrocities that occurred, they'll continue again, and that's how we prevent them from occurring again. So we have to continue to teach and educate about what happened so that it does never happen again. So on behalf of the city of St. Petersburg, I'd like to read this proclamation for you today. Whereas on February 10th, 2014, Chabad of Greater St. Petersburg is honored to host an evening with Mrs. Eva Schloss, the childhood friend and stepsister of Anne Frank. And whereas Mrs. Eva Schloss is herself a survivor of the Holocaust, during which an estimated 11 million people, including 6 million Jews, were systematically exterminated. And whereas Mrs. Eva Schloss will share her own story of survival, including accounts of the publishing of Anne's famed diary, The Diary of a Young Woman, which chronicles Anne's life from 12 June 1942 until 1 August 1944, and which has been the basis for several plays and films. And whereas this is an opportunity for educators, clergy, and civil leaders to highlight and emphasize the innate God-given rights endowed to every human being. And whereas Chabad of Greater St. Petersburg, under the direction of Rabbi and Mrs. Korf, has been committed to education and to the teaching of tolerance and understanding, and to bringing Judaism and its optimistic message of a better, peaceful world to the St. Petersburg metro area. Now, therefore, I, Rick Kriseman, Mayor of the City of St. Petersburg, do proclaim Monday, February 10th, 2014, Holocaust Education Day, and urge the citizens of this city to continue to recognize the significance of the Holocaust and to stand united against future war crimes and genocide.
Yeah.
And I also would like to present you with a small token of our appreciation for your being here today with a key to the city of St. Petersburg.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, beautiful. Thank you. Thank you.
It is most important in these times we are living in today that the world should always look back at the past and learn, so we can live in the present and look to the future, with visions of peace and say never again.
What an inspiring evening to hear firsthand from Eva Schloss, somebody who has come so close, had so many close calls on life, and to see her and to hear how she emerged from this incredible age of destruction, to see the hope, the confidence, the optimism, the vibrancy in her tone at this age and at this moment in her life is just so inspiring. Let's hope that everybody walked away a better person and approached the next day on a higher note.
To order a signed copy of our book, please call our offices at 727-344-4900, or you can email us at info@chabadsp.com. For information about lecture classes and upcoming events, join our email at www.chabadsp.com.
It's Stein-O-Mite.